Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are joining us here today on another episode of Summit Live. If you happen to be joining us live right now, type in hashtag live. If you happen to be watching the replay, type in hashtag replay so I know who is joining us throughout this session today. Today we have an exciting session, of course, together with the author of Angelo Della V, The Angel of Life by SaraSai Woods. And of course, she is a spiritual coach, visionary mentor, inspirational speaker, writer, and opera diva. All right. She has combined a career singing grand opera semi-professionally, while gaining invaluable life lessons over 25 years, accompanying hundreds of souls on their most challenging journey through cancer treatment and end of life transitions. So with her very unique background, from being an opera singer to being this carer of souls, she definitely provides us a very unique insight in how is it that we can live our life to the fullest, and how is it that we can reframe our relationship with death as well. So without further ado, let's give a warm welcome to SaraSai Woods.
Hey, good morning. Morning
Hey,
for
good
me in
morning.
UK. I'm in London. Good
Hi,
evening to you.
yes. Great to see you. You see, we've got Tuk Tuk, of course, joining us live from the Philippines. We have John, the founder of Summit, live from Malaysia. And then we have Michelle as well, joining us all the way from Australia. So it's great to finally have you here. Sarasai, I've had the great fortune to be able to work very closely with you. As I've written in my post, you are my spiritual guide. And just to share with all of you, for the past, I believe, close to a year. We've connected together, and really, Sarasai has helped me on my journey in finding my purpose. But not only that, she is able to help me unlock my voice in a way where it aligns to my true purpose. So no longer do I have to be fearful about, or what other people think, or fearful about what to say, where everything just flows naturally, where that blockage is just cleared away. So, with that, I'd like to thank you, Sarasai. So,
My pleasure and
yeah, so for
privilege.
the benefit of our audience, could you share with us your very very interesting journey? How is it that you've come all these years through your experience and then to where you are today as a spiritual and transformational coach?
Well, when you ask that question, I think that it started in childhood. I remember with my dad being up the Dublin mountains when I was only about 9 or 10 and asking him, Dad, who are you really? Who are you when you're not dad, when you're not a husband, when you're not, he was managing director of Polygram Records in Ireland. Who are you when you're not playing all these roles, basically? What child asks this? But that was where I lived. Like really always looking deeper into who are we and what's it all about. So I went through a transition, normal. I first became a nurse straight out of school. And side by side, I'd always sung. So then, literally, when I finished my nursing training, I came over to London and I went to one of the top music colleges in London for my 4 years undergraduate training. And then I did 2 years postgrad and then developed the career singing opera. And side by side, I lived in two worlds, kind of the world of the ego and the I am, where people were saying, oh my God, you're amazing and how wonderful. And it was all about me. And then the world of supporting people going through cancer diagnoses and through end of life transitions. And that was where I found the truth of who I am, because I realized when you're focusing on serving others, it's not about you, and you get to experience who you truly are in those moments. And so I juggled these two careers side by side. And what happened was my mom was diagnosed with cancer. I had a dream about my mom. I was in London, I'd finished music college, and I had a dream, and she was really upset in the dream. And I'd never seen her that upset. And in the dream, I said, "Don't worry, Mom, I'll take care of everything." And so I woke up and I felt uneasy. I called home, and nobody had told me that my mom was going into hospital because they didn't want me worrying at a distance. And and literally, she was going down for a liver biopsy that day. And later that evening, I was already home. I flew home that day, and she was given a prognosis of 6 weeks. And, this is something I discovered. When people are given a prognosis, they kind of sometimes live into that. It becomes a reality for them, becomes a truth, because the mind takes the information and then it becomes almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy. So 6 weeks later, she left the body. But in those 6 weeks, I'd attuned to everything I could possibly do to help her have it be a peaceful, loving experience for all our family of togetherness, where even like a few days before she left the body, she had afternoon tea with our neighbors, which is ridiculous, to say goodbye to them. And, I have a family, there are 7 children. I made sure everybody had time for us all to communicate, to have time to say goodbye, to experience this together in a conscious way, so that there was peace afterwards. There was a lack of grieving long term because there was resolution, and there was a shared experience which helped her leave the body and helped everyone move on. And, a year later was the same with my dad. We went through the exact same thing, but he had a year. And both of my parents were really strong characters. So I learned in those experiences, everybody's like our father. Everybody is like our brother for me. And so that's what I brought into my work. Nobody knows how to approach this. People don't know how to die because they don't actually want to look at death. And I don't focus on death, but what I focus on is life. And people only can truly access life when they are free of fear. And that big taboo traps everybody in fear. So this even shows up for speakers because, they say that when you're speaking, even more than the fear of death is the fear of public speaking for people. But that's like a kind of death as well. Fear of being exposed or humiliated or rejected or in some way embarrassed and unable to be yourself. So I
Mm.
think I've probably answered that way longer than I needed to, but that's kind of like the background. So I realized this other people don't have the freedom I have in this area. And so I want to use, that's why I wrote the book. I want to use this knowledge, this wisdom, my lifetime's experience, juggling both worlds, literally seeing people, you get a prognosis or you have a sudden event, a sudden transition, and everything changes. And you actually recalibrate your whole way of relating to life. And unfortunately, people wait until it's too late to wake up like that. And so I wanted people to have the opportunity to wake up while they still can turn their life to what really matters, to really reevaluate what matters in life. And what I discovered is this gives people power to be fully conscious, living on purpose by design and not by default. So it's kind of like a 360-degree journey that just has me really privileged to pass on what I have learned over my lifetime in my program now and in working one-on-one and mentoring people and speaking further about this topic.
Wow, wow. What an amazing journey. And I think it's
Mm,
such a blessing for your parents to have a daughter like yourself to be able to guide them through this journey, to give them the space to connect with their loved ones and to transition smoothly throughout.
mm,
And I mean, when you first heard of the prognosis, right, with your mother, what was
mm.
that initial emotion or thought that you felt?
You know, what happened in the dream to me was like a soul's connection. And my only desire was to help her. My only desire was to ease her suffering So there was no thinking about me, to be really honest. I even sang at her funeral. And I imagined that it was a concert in heaven, wherever heaven is, So the empowering belief I had that it was my role to love her, to support her, that gave me all my strength. Because the answer to everything that causes our suffering is returning to love. And so I truly, at the moment of her leaving the body, you might find this incredible, but I was in a state of joy at that moment because I had fulfilled everything that was possible to support her. And that gave me the strength. And I never thought for a second then, there was no grieving for me. I'm not saying this is the case for everyone, but by and large, people do not have an empowering context for death and for illness. And this is basically, you need to go deeper into a spiritual reality, because if the mind is evaluating, you don't have complete freedom, because the mind will serve us up a diet of fear and all kinds of uh, experiences we looked in the past to for our understanding of what this means. So there's really nobody there to reinterpret and reframe. And by and large, my work is reframing in a broader context that gives people back their power, that has you live free now. Because life is so busy, people do not take the time to be present to what really matters in life. We're so busy, like headless chickens, going around, just surviving life and not taking a moment to pause. This is why my Vocalezy program is so important.
Yeah.
In that 6-week training, it's transformational, it's healing. It gives people back to themselves, because most people have a version of themselves that they present. This is the social mask, and it's also the adaptive, the identity that you took on to try and be the one that would be loved, to try and be the one that would win the prize, to try and be the one that would not get rejected. And so people are walking around in life with their masks on, and therefore that costs you authenticity in communication. And I'm all about people having conscious choice and having freedom to be themselves. So my Vocalezy program, which is informed by all my experiences, allows people to finally be themselves as they are, in the moment, by the moment, so that there's no need to hide. There's no need to perform. And as you know, dealing with speakers, a lot of speakers feel they have to perform in some way to present some idealized version of themselves that we never quite reach in life. If you think about it, everybody has something in the background that they wish they could do better or present better. And to be okay with who you are allows you to be present in the moment. And then you become responsive rather than reactive. And that gives people a lot of power. As you know, I mean, I have to point to you, Ching Yu, because I think you have gained a great degree of mastery in being present. As an interviewer, you give the space to people. I think you're becoming a master at this, honestly. And it's a different version of interviewing where it's about being authentic, being honest, being able to be, look, today, if I'm being honest, I battled with my green screen. I know how to handle everything and it just didn't work. So you have to just be in the moment. Am I going to let that stop me delivering an important message to people? No. You're going to have to forgive imperfections and to have license to not be perfect. Lets people, like, it's like the get out of jail card. And to have that in all relationships, in all your communication. What would life be like if every time you spoke, you were able to speak from your heart? That you didn't have to censor your speaking. Who doesn't long for this freedom? Things are always going to happen. Something's always going to go wrong. You'll forget your lines. Your video won't play. You know this because you're living it.
Yep, yep. I think
But
it's very very easy as well for people to fall into the trap of self censorship to the extent
yeah,
where they don't even realize they're self censoring themselves
yeah,
anymore. It becomes
yeah.
second nature, and it's only until I like to say where that environment becomes unsustainable, right? Where you feel that
Mm,
there's a part of you where you feel where your message is trapped within yourself, and then it
mm,
can come up in the form of depression, or you just don't know why you don't want to wake up
yeah,
anymore, right? Yeah, and it's so
yeah, yeah.
important.
And you know what that's about as well? So we're talking about loss today. Loss can be any kind of loss, but really it's loss of connection to yourself. That's what shows up in loss of connection to the truth of who you are. But you know, Ching Yu, most people have no idea who they are. They don't know who they are. So I want to make something clear though when I'm talking with you. In my program in Vocalezy, there's two aspects to it. One of those aspects is looking at your voice, your physical voice, the larynx, how that works, how you use your voice, the command of your voice, making sure your voice is grounded in your body. What does that mean? Your voice is your vibration. It's an aspect of who you are. It's a part of your identity. And a lot of people are even detached from their own source of energy, the breath in the body. Now, if you think about it, the breath, when you come into the body in birth, it happens with a breath in life, in physical realm. When you leave the body, it's also with the breath. And the breath is your link to your source energy. And so if you don't ground the breath in your body, you kind of disconnect it. And then you have the voice of the mind. The mind is like a whole cast of characters in there, all wanting to take the microphone. You have the pleaser, you have the controller, you have the victim, all these characters in your inner saboteurs, you could say, all wanting to push you out of the way and to take the microphone so you don't even get a chance to talk. So, who is this you? Your inner voice, the truth of who you are. So, I help people join those three voices together so that there's congruence in their messaging and in their speaking, but not just when they're performing, not just when they're speaking publicly, but in life, in their relationships. And if you think about loss can be loss of a job, loss of purpose. You mentioned people with depression. What is that? It's loss of connection to your own spark within, loss of the feeling of power, that you have autonomy in your life, that you can be in the driving seat. Just stop me if I'm going on too long. I see there are people joining. And so,
Yeah, I see
uh,
Michael sharing, yeah, "Come as you are" was a very good slogan taken by by a famous company because it is linked to what people deeply need. We
yeah,
all want to feel comfortable and not have to hide behind conventional behaviors, right?
yeah.
And what do you find is the biggest roadblock in people allowing themselves to be themselves or to find their true selves?
Well, you could say not being present, because when you know who you are, you have a choice. But if you don't even get in touch with who you are, it's like you're like a running on autopilot. There's no conscious uh, creation or communication. So you're subject to your reactions. So you cannot be in the moment. So if you can't be in the moment, how can you present yourself? You're not actually there. You're in your head. And so what I do is I like people to get into their hearts. And, it's a great privilege working with people in this way. This is kind of like an extension of the work I did when I was guiding families and people preparing to leave the body, because everything that matters shows up. And so I'm blessed that people really trust me, and they trust me with their deepest, innermost secrets in a confidential, safe space. And I know how to navigate. I actually use fun exercises, vocal exercises, to divert their minds so that we're playing. It becomes like fun and play, but it leads them to their heart, where it's easy for them to just be. And the relief of being able to be yourself is enormous. And then you get that feeling of, wow. And so then I give them techniques, ways of managing that so that they have conscious choice. But actually, breakthroughs happen very quickly, where even in one session, people experience remembering who they are. And then there's a choice. A lot of people are so disconnected. Listen, the busy world with all the tasks we have to do, with all the demands on us. And, another aspect of this, even though I don't deal with death now, I am all about life. This is why I wrote that book, because I see death as the gift of life. And people need to understand what that means on a deeper level, to be free of the fear that allows all these imposters to take over their communication,
Yeah.
right?
And what
So,
what would
yeah.
you say is the root of the fear of death? And how is it that people can bring themselves to the stage of where you're able to see death as something to be celebrated, even, right? To have that frame of mind. What is that difference in mindset or way of looking at death?
Yeah. So the problem there lies in how you identify yourself. So there are three aspects of who we are. When you look in the mirror, you see you, what you think is you, your face, your body. So that's how we relate to ourselves, body consciousness. And then there's also how other people relate to you. This is mental consciousness, their mental image of who you are, which once decided is hard to change. So they decide who you are, and people have judgments and opinions. As soon as you appear, people are deciding who you are, and you get locked into that identity, and then it's tough to change their minds sometimes. But that's not who you are either. And then there's who you truly are. You're on the inside, your inner being. That inner being cannot die. That inner being survives. That inner being is the spark of the divine within you that never dies. But because we relate to the body mind as who someone is, then we think we die or they die. And of course, the body mind does die, but only in the way that life is change. And my understanding is that it's like changing clothes. You take on another body, like another version of you, still you on the inside, with a different appearance, maybe a different color, maybe a different gender, maybe a different nationality, a different race. And so we play the game of trying out all these identities in life. Why? In order to waken up to the truth of who we are, so that then we don't have to play this game in the birth-life continuum anymore. So the purpose of life gets missed, the entire soul's purpose of life. If you do not relate to yourself beyond the body-mind, this is what I've witnessed in hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of lives, no matter what the status, no matter the empires in the mind that they built up, no matter the celebrity, no matter rich or poor, none of that can you take with you. When you're in your pajamas at the end of your life, you've run out of energy, you've run out of time to actually get the lessons you came here for, which is why it's critical that you actually become conscious of why you are here. What is your why? And that's part of Vocalezy, really tuning into your soul's why, not just your worldly why, because then you can potentially win the game of life, the real game of life that nobody is even playing. And so I'm really on a mission to wake people up to what really matters in this lifetime. And especially now, I mean, we've all just been through COVID, and we're having to deal with our own mortality right in our faces in a way we never had to experience before. There is no guarantee of a tomorrow. And we're faced with losing our loved ones, and not necessarily having time to say goodbye. So it's even more important that we live in such a way that we don't have regrets. Well, what does that mean? Who are you being in your life? So if the truth of your being is pure love, if you were to relate to yourself as the embodiment of love, this is the truth of who we are. We are divine beings pretending to have an existence as limited beings, to learn the lessons of remembering who we are. So, my book, Angelo de la Vie, is literally an invitation for people to remember who they are. Now, by the way, can I say something as well?
Yep.
You're wonderful because you're holding up my book, and I've recently changed my name.
Mm-hmm.
When people go to Amazon to buy this book, they're going to see Odette Woods. Why? I want to explain that because it really matters. This is authenticity. I've changed my name to SaraSai because this is a conscious choice of who I'm being in my life. You see, we're given an identity, and we are not the identity. We are not the story of who we are. And so we get the choice to consciously create who we are. But you need to have the know-how to know how to navigate your way around all of that, to begin to have that choice and to live consciously by design. But to me, there is no point in life if you're just sleepwalking your way through life, you know.
Yep.
So if people go to Amazon now, apparently I need to get a new ISBN to change the author's name. So
Yep.
it's only a recent change. So yes, you're you'll find it there. And very soon you'll find it there under my new name, which is actually a name I've been using for years. It has a spiritual context to it, calling me forward to my vision for who I'm going to be in the world. And this is another choice you have. Everybody you speak with, they're committed to a purpose of some description. How conscious is the purpose? How much does it inform their everyday choices? Because when you live in this way, you become unstoppable. And that's the choice I want people to have. Really, we're at the most exciting time in the evolution of the world where we have the opportunity to become conscious beings in this lifetime. And so that's my mission. Wake people up. Okay, come on, everyone, wake up, wake up. You don't need to be afraid. We're here to win this game of life.
Yep. And you don't have to do it alone, with
You don't
amazing
have to do it
souls and
alone.
guides like
Yeah,
SaraSai, and of course,
yeah,
with the community. I think, that really reinforces the sort of community we want to build here in Summit is that, we are able to help and support each other, bring out our true
yeah,
purpose so that we wake up every day with that energy, with that vision and say, yes, today is another day where I'm so connected to myself, where I feel in the space of knowing I'm in the right place. No longer do I need to feel held back by a job that I hate, by
yeah,
routines that's not serving me, to break free of those chains and truly be free, right? Because I think, we have been given this gift of life, and it's not something that we should take it for granted, and then, as you
mm,
mentioned, just sleepwalk through life and not really unlocking our true purpose, to be conscious beings, to have
Mm.
that choice to choose, right? So Michael asks, how do we reconnect on a daily basis with ourselves? How can we deal with this reconnection necessity inside our habits? How do we translate it into our daily habits?
So everything is about presence. So do we have time to do a very quick exercise? Yeah?
Yep.
Okay. So in this moment, Michael, and hi, Michael, I remember you. Uh, take a moment right now, close your eyes, and I want you to just listen to the words I'm saying. This is the sound of your very own breath. I want you to breathe in on the word so, like this. So, and breathe out on the words hum. So you don't have to say the sounds, just imagine those words. So, 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 you can very gently open your eyes again. Now, that was maybe 1 minute, but in that 1 minute, you got to connect to yourself in the moment. What do those words mean? Those words mean, I am that. I am that I am. You're tuning in to that eternal being inside you, your pure consciousness, and you're bypassing the mind. So you're giving the mind an instruction to bypass the mind. Listen, the mind is like a naughty kid at the supermarket going grabbing all the sweets off the shelves. And you are the parent. You're going to tell this mind, okay, come here, you can have one sweet. And this is the sweet, the word soham. So you're directing the mind to bypass the mind. Listen, our mind is our best friend. You're going to find a lot of people teach mind mastery, and that's wonderful. I love that. I also will give you tools on mind mastery because your mind can be your greatest servant. But if you have your mind as your master, you're the slave. So I'm going to help you go beyond the mind, so that the mind is serving you. And it's you can appoint it like VIP or CEO, not CEO. You are the CEO of your business, but you can appoint the mind as your top deputy, your right-hand person to, to work with you. So you give instructions to the mind, but then you tap into a deeper awareness, and that's when the real conversation arises, living from that deeper awareness. That's a great little exercise, which you can use if you're sitting on a train. Don't use it when you're driving. But even if, that's actually a great little tool. We all come across moments of resistance where something's going on that we don't want. In any moment, rather than arguing with reality, which is the resistance. To me, all resistance is suffering. It's arguing with what's so. So in any moment, you can just close your eyes, tap into that inner being. That's when choice arises. And then you're back in the driving seat, right?
Yep. Yep.
Thank you
And
for the question, Michael. I hope that answers it for you.
wonderful. Yeah. I guess the next question that comes to mind then is that, do we always have a choice in our lives?
Yeah, that's a very, very good question. Now, that goes deeper, and that's because you are very conscious in how you live your life. And that might be a challenging question for some people, because that brings up the question of free will, right? We are taught, I don't know what you were taught growing up, but we are taught that we have free will. So, my understanding of this is we have free will, but who is the one that has the will? So if it's the mind that is deciding, that's not us. So if you identify with the mind, you have conscious choice to tune in to your inner being. So ultimately, one of the battles we have in life is when we feel we are not in control. And death is one of those times. Any sudden transition, I mean, I experience this with people with cancer diagnoses. You just mention the word cancer and people automatically feel out of control. They feel they're going to die. You have two choices in that moment: to go dig deeper, and it actually can be the greatest gift of awakening to the truth of who you are. Again, I've experienced that many times. These traumatic times of great transition thrust upon us, where we have no power in the moment, we think, can be what lead us to the surrender of control, which is actually the acquisition of freedom. Because it's the individual that needs to control. And in this world of duality, we relate to ourselves as separate from everyone else. And that's because we are in a body. And my body is different to your body. Therefore, if I relate to you as Ching you with that face, that body, then obviously that's separate to this face and this body. But if you relate to yourself as the limitless self, the embodiment of love, pretending to be Ching you or playing the part. Look, I lived a life on the stage. I still sing. But each time you go on stage, you're playing a role. You're playing a character. But if you think Ching Yu is your character, then that's the only character you get to play in this lifetime. It could be a bit boring, where you're forced to stay on stage all the time. You don't get to go off between acts. There's no rest to put your feet up or have a cup of coffee, right?
Mhm.
You're forced to play this part. So when you tap into the truth of who you are, you get to play whatever part you like. You get to recreate. You can create another identity. So therefore, you have a freedom beyond control, beyond limitation. And so even though it's outside of control, it's the freedom that is the truth of who we are that you begin to tap into, where there's no longer a need for control. There's actually a wonderful embrace of surrender. That's where I live, in surrender. Who are you surrendering to? That's a good question, right? I heard you asking. I see your face. Who are you surrendering to? You're surrendering to the all that is, to the universal self, to our divine truths. So this is where people run into roadblocks sometimes, because they think that's got something to do with religion. Nothing to do with religion. There are many religions in the world. There are many versions of truth, but all point to one reality: our divine beingness, which is the same in all sentient beings, that we are all. And because we relate to being in this body, we think we are the individual self. It's all about your identity. So therefore, when you transcend the individual identity, you begin to experience yourself as all. Therefore, when you're speaking to somebody, you're speaking to yourself. When you're judging someone, you're judging yourself. Oh, that's not good news. Because then there's no escape. You can't actually judge anyone because that's an aspect of yourself. For anybody who ever heard of Dr. Ihaliakala Hulen, they will know about Ho'oponopono. And there was this great doctor, I think he was a psychologist or something. He used this principle of oneness to heal everything within him that it showed up in the external reality. And that's more like the truth of who we are. We are an aspect of God. You know, people don't like to say the word God anymore. I do not agree. Imagine a loving father, a loving mother, like we all have a version of our parents who loved us the best they knew how. We're told that parents love unconditionally, but a lot of people might say, well, it wasn't quite unconditional. But therefore, we don't have an experience of what true unconditional love is, what divine love is. Imagine the most loving mother, father, divine presence in our life in every moment, knowing everything about us, loving us no matter what. This is the truth of who we are. We are an aspect of that. But as long as we're listening to our small version of ourselves, we cannot be realized as that. When we begin to realize that aspect of ourselves in our own experience of life, we begin to witness it in others. This is the spiritual journey we were born for, to awaken to the truth of who we are as an aspect of God, as the embodiment of love. For me, God is another name for love, the truth of who we all are. Does that answer the question?
Oh, yes, yes, definitely. And it definitely dives deep into our relationship with God. And I think, like what you mentioned, with love, that unconditional love, right?
Yeah.
And are people who have not experienced unconditional love towards themselves able to give unconditional love? Is that a
That's really
possibility?
interesting.
Mhm.
Yes. The answer is yes, because we are not our circumstances. So sometimes great souls come into the body and have a lot of suffering in their life. So they're not given the ideal circumstances. When you reframe your suffering in the context of your spiritual journey, that can be the greatest gift of awakening if you have somebody to guide you in that awakening. Sometimes the gift of suffering is the gift of remembering who you are. When you can go beyond the victim mentality in judging the suffering or in being victim to the suffering, when you reframe suffering as a gift, which it requires a certain level of consciousness and a certain ability to be mentored in this way, really, to be able to go beyond your opinions and judgments, to be able to be coachable, to learn, to be willing to let go of your strong ideas about reality, how it is and how it isn't. You can begin that journey. And, I even, from personal experience, I used to wonder about this in helping people leave the body. My objective was always to help people reduce suffering. And sometimes it wasn't possible because when people were unresolved in their physical lives, there was sometimes suffering before they left the body. And I came to learn that that suffering was actually a gift to help them learn these lessons before they leave the body. For many people, those were lessons about control. They lived a life of great control, and then they arrived at a place where they had no control. And that's really uncomfortable for people who are hanging on to control. But when control is met with love, with consciousness, with somebody who wants to help you transcend what you're resisting, you can go beyond. And then you can learn that lesson in this life that you don't need to recreate it in your next one. Because if you think of life as a school where you go from class to class, and eventually get to graduate from school or college. I do see that death as graduation to the next class if you get the lessons. But if you don't do your homework, you're not going to pass the test. And then you come back to do it all over again with the same cast of characters. So look around you to the cast of characters in your life, the ones you're resisting, the ones you compare. These are your greatest teachers, because whatever resistance exists in you with anything in your external reality is your greatest gift, your greatest lesson to embrace. They are all helping you find freedom. And when you realize that, now you're in a different place. You're living and life as an adventure, moment by moment, day by day, where you're in the driving seat, allowing life to be as it is, letting everything happen. And it all just becomes what's happening, and how am I consciously relating to what's happening. I'm not keeping an eye on time, by the way. Don't let me talk where you don't
No
have time
worries.
to say to close up.
Yep, yep,
You can see I'm passionate about people being empowered, and
yep,
really having a connection with their own inner voice so that they're free to fulfill their purpose and to enjoy life, to enjoy the adventure of life.
yep. And we have a message coming in from Grant Morel. Of course, he's also one of our speakers on Summit. He says that he was on a Hopono Ono call last
All last
night.
night.
It's something that comes into sessions from time to time. And the premise of this practice is very well founded, and I believe very powerful as well. I remember when I first came across this during one of our retreats, um, and we were chanting it. It gives a sense of relief and release, right? Where you're able to really take that time to reflect upon yourself, to forgive yourself and forgive
Mhm.
those around you, right?
Yeah,
I think especially for people who are focused externally on giving and
yeah,
serving, they don't take the time to take care of themselves, right? And they don't realize, or we don't realize, what are the things that's holding us back. What are the areas where we are not forgiving ourselves? What are the areas where
yeah,
we are beating ourselves down? And then we need to find forgive and let go so that we can get to the next stage of our lives.
yeah,
So
yeah.
very, very powerful sharing.
And I'd say, Ho'oponopono, it's one tool. I don't represent Ho'oponopono. It's a tool that I can share with people, but it's not what I do. Just so that there's clarity there. Uh, you come to a point where all the tools are only pointing towards a reality. And you ultimately need somebody who's walked the journey before you to guide you on that reality. Somebody who knows how to interpret everything that's occurring for you in your lifetime in a way that frees you to reframe everything that occurs, that you are free to go beyond all circumstance. And if you think what stops people, you know, everybody has their challenges. There's nothing more certain in life than change and challenge. And to be able to navigate your way through life so that you're never stopped. And if you think from the point of view of speakers, a lot of people who are listening to this are speakers. What happens if you're due to make an important speech, or you're delivering your program, and something in your personal life really stops you in your tracks? How to navigate around that you're free to be authentic, and that you are not disempowered, that you're able to tap into an inner truth which has you not be stopped, and also to be comforted that everything in our lives serves us. Everything serves us. Everything is a gift. Every moment is a precious gift. And the thing is, a lot of people waste that gift. They don't realize there may not be a tomorrow. Any of us might not even be here this evening. I don't say that to scare people, but like, life is urgent. Getting on track is urgent. We discovered this with COVID. There are no guarantees that you'll be able to, you know, prioritize what really matters when you've built your business, when you've done what you think you want to do in this worldly life. Those are important. We're all wanting to achieve, but that's not the point of your life. The point of your life is to waken up to who you are. And so factor that in and bring that in to every aspect of your life. Then you're winning in both areas, in the worldly side of things, in who you create yourself in the worldly reality as, and you're also winning on the spiritual side of things, learning your lessons consciously every day. That's the winning ticket. That's the
Mm,
winning ticket.
mm.
Yeah.
Uh, so one of the things you mentioned was urgency, right?
Yeah.
And I think this is a push and pull for some people, where they feel that there's so much urgency that it brings about anxiety in their lives, right? So how do you
Yes.
navigate that, the sort of urgency that is constructive versus destructive?
Yeah. So it's all again about being present. So the mind has opinions and judgments about every moment. And so you're either empowered by the mind or disempowered by the mind. So the first thing is get present, notice who's doing the talking. Every time you speak, who is speaking? First of all, you need to know who you are to know who's speaking. Otherwise, it's generally the mind. So ultimately, you want your heart to take the microphone and in the moment in life to become conscious. Uh, just to have that choice, to have that awareness begins to make that choice be available. And then it's about flexing the spiritual muscles of life. You know, you go to the gym to flex your physical muscles. You can do mental exercises to flex your mental muscles. But awareness, increasing awareness and presence, flexes your spiritual muscles to have choice moment by moment. It's amazing how that transforms lives very quickly. So, yeah, that's the answer to that one.
Wow. Yeah. So we need to be present in the moment, and
Hmm.
living consciously, choosing life that's aligned with our true purpose, and then the anxiety melts away.
And that's all. That's all words. So words have a limitation in understanding. Words live in the mind. Words create. So another aspect of this is watch your words. Watch what you're creating with your word, because you're creating your physical reality moment by moment in the words you choose to communicate. So make your words powerful. Notice what happens when you speak, what you're creating as an end result, because this is what gives the power to the mind. When you're speaking disempowering beliefs about yourself, like I'm not lovable, or I'm not good enough, I wish I'd done this better, or whatever our judgments, that running commentary that we have, when you're listening to that and speaking that out into the world, you're literally creating the trap for yourself. So become more conscious of the words that come out of your mouth. Then you again become a conscious creator. You're stepping into your power. You're realizing I've got the power to create what I want or what I don't want. And the mind will look for what you want or what you don't want. So get the mind on the job, looking for what you want to experience, and have your words be congruent with that in creating your reality consciously by design, not by default.
Beautiful, beautiful words. So we're closing into our hour. If there was one message that you had to share with the world before you leave this planet, what would that message be?
You are pure love. The truth of who you are is pure love. Anything that argues, anything that argues in your mind with that reality is the mind talking to you, determining who you are. It's not true. The truth of who you are is You are a part of the divine. Wake up. You do not have to live locked up enchained and imprisoned in the world of the mind. You can wake up and live the true reality of your being as the embodiment of love. And also, all other beings are pure love. Become someone that presences that in your reality, and you will experience that in the world. This is how we will return to a world of love, a world of peace, one by one, each person taking responsibility. So wake up, it's time. And come and talk to me if you need a reminder.
Yeah, beautiful. So everybody, wake up! It is time. Yeah, and definitely, if you'd like to learn from SaraSai Woods, we would definitely love to invite you, to join us in our Facebook community. It's facebook.com/groups/summit education. Share with us, what did you learn through this session, right? With hashtag SaraSai Woods. And then, I'm sure that we are scheduling in background to explore the potential of having SaraSai Woods on our platform as well, to conduct a couple of workshops together. And so, if you're interested in our education platform, it's summitasia.com/free. You can join that right now, and then you can unlock 2 amazing courses immediately, right, on our membership. And you will definitely be informed when we have SaraSai Woods on our platform, right? And again, you can also find SaraSai's book, Angelo della Vie, The Angel of Life: Discover the Hidden Secrets of Living and Dying Well, on Amazon. Okay, right now it's still saying Odette Woods, but in the future it'll be SaraSai Woods as well. So it's time to wake up, create your life, and yes, SaraSai, do you have any parting words?
I'd really like to thank you, Ching Yu, for inviting me to join you today. It's a privilege. And this is my first interview as SaraSai Woods. And I'm really delighted it's with you. Yeah, and you're such a wonderful interviewer. And I'd like to say as well, I have joined Summit Asia. This is Summit Live, and this what you just mentioned. And I think it's an extraordinary opportunity that people might not know about. So definitely follow that up, because they're extraordinary speakers. You're creating something that I think is generating the leaders of tomorrow, because you're supporting people in creating their brand, their purpose, their offerings to the world, and you're giving them an opportunity to highlight those. I think it's really extraordinary. You're a wonderful interviewer. I love interviewing people as well. You create such a generous space for people. So people are going to love exploring this because you are interviewing people in this, right?
Yep.
Yeah. And I think I'm watching mastery in motion. Honestly, I really want to thank you from the bottom of my heart, giving me this opportunity. It's been a complete privilege, and I hope it's been of value to people.
Thank you very much, Sai. It's our privilege to have you on our platform as well. To your wonderful support for the community, and your generous heart, energy, and soul. Right. So we are really looking forward to having you on board and sharing your message together with us. Of course, you can look up more about SaraSai Woods together with her Vocalezy program. Very, very powerful. uh, you know, I highly recommend it. So with that, thank you very much, SaraSai Woods, and thank you everybody for joining us throughout this session. Grant Morel says, beautiful words at SaraSai Woods. Right. So, join us in this beautiful community. It's www.facebook.com/groups/summit education. And we will see you at the top. Okay, goodbye for now, everybody. Thank you very much for joining us.